G'day mate and welcome to Factorio with me, Jitty. Today I want to cover how we're going to turn normal green circuits and red circuits into legendary blue circuits. But to do that, we need to understand the process. We need to step through a little bit of maths, so bear with me for just 1 minute. First off, we need to talk about how we get blue circuits to start with. Of course, we put them into an assembler, we put in 20 green circuits, also a couple of reds, a little bit of sulfuric acid, and we get out one single blue circuit. We know this process well. At the same time, if we put in a couple of productivity modules to give us a 50% bonus productivity, rather than getting out one blue circuit, we get 1.5. It does slow down the machine a little bit, but at the moment we're just looking at ratios. We're looking at how many green circuits we need to get a set number of blue circuits. Next off, I'd like to look at, well, the EM plant, which runs a little bit faster than what the assembler does, but also comes with that 50% productivity built in, which still means we put in 20 green circuits, but we get 1.5 out. Next off, we're going to look at an EM plant full of productivity modules. These are legendary productivity modules, which does mean we now have a total productivity of 175%. What does that mean? It means we get 1.75 free blue circuits for every one we craft, which now means I'm putting in 20 green circuits, I'm getting 2.75 out. But I need a little bit better. What I actually need to do is I need to put in 20 green circuits to get 4 blue circuits out, which means I need a bonus productivity of 300%. The good news is, with Space Age, we do have a couple of researchers we can now use to get bonus productivity. If we look here, we can see for 1,500 of red, green, blue, purple, and of course the electromagnetic science, we can get 10% bonus productivity. With that research done, we can now see over on the right-hand side, and I have a productivity of 185%, which is a little bit better than what we had before, but like I said, I need to hit a goal of 300%. So we need to repeat this research a couple of times, 13 times to be exact. And now I have the situation where I have the 300 bonus productivity that I need, which now means I put in 20 green circuits and I get out the one that I crafted, plus an extra 3, which gives me a total of 4. But JD, that's going to get me normal blue circuits because I'm putting in normal green circuits and normal red circuits, and I'd say, yes, you're 100% correct. We need to improve this. We need to add some quality somewhere along the line. Now we need to talk about the other half of the system, that being the recycler. The recycler takes in a item and gives you back 25% of the ingredients used to craft that item. So if we come all the way back to the top with our very first assembler, that we put in 20 green circuits, we got 1 blue circuit out. If we put 1 blue circuit into a recycler, we get 5 green circuits back out, being 25%. 20 we put in to start with. But if we look at our second example with that 50% productivity, we got 1.5 blue circuits out. We now have 1.5 blue circuits we can put into the system, which actually means we're going to get 7.5 back out. If we look at the EM plant version, it's going to be the exact same at 7.5. But if we look at the EM plant with the productivity, we got 2.75 blue circuits out, which means I have 2.75 blue circuits to put in, which means I get 13.75 back out. If we look at our last example, which has that 300% productivity, well, that means for every 20 green circuits I put in, and of course 2 red circuits, I got 4 blue circuits. For 4 blue circuits in, I'd get back my 20 green circuits and of course the 2 red circuits. But that doesn't get us any quality. What we actually need to do is we need to start looking at quality. So if I had a recycler that had 4 legendary quality modules, giving me about a 25% upgrade on my quality, it means for the 4 blue circuits I put in, I'd get back 15 normal quality and I get 5 higher quality. But it does require we do this research up to level 13, which costs a total of 580,856 science, which is an awful lot. But you have to remember, with Space Age, if you have the Biolab with about 50% productivity modules, being 4 uncommon prod 3s, then the 2 of them combined together brings the total cost down to 145,214. So it's going to take you a little while, but in the end, you can be in a situation where you could put in 20 green circuits, get 4 blue circuits, take the 4 blue circuits, and upgrade the quality. But we need to talk about quality. We need to understand how quality works exactly. So if I put in 10,000 blue circuits, and I had a recycler that had just a 10% upgrade in the quality, I'd actually get 9,000 normal quality back out. I get 900 uncommon quality. I'd also get 90 rare quality. I get 9 epic quality, and I get 1 legendary. You might say, JD, for every 10,000 I put in, I get 1 legendary. This is going to take a very, very long time for me to get nothing but legendaries. And I would say, you're both right and wrong. You have to remember, when it comes to Factorio, it's a numbers game. If you don't believe me, go look at whatever assembler you're using to make gears for your belt, especially if you haven't replaced that assembler throughout the whole game, and hover over it and see exactly how many items it's crafted. It's crafted an awful lot. If you put 4 quality modules into that machine, you would have an awful lot of legendary gears right from square one. We're only talking about a recycler that has 10% quality upgrade. What happens if we use legendary modules to have a higher quality upgrade? Well, that means I still put in 10,000, but instead, because the higher quality being that 24.8%, being about 25, well, it means I get back 7,520 normal quality, 2,232 uncommon. Also, I get back 223.2 of the rares, 22.32 of the epics, and 2.48 of the legendaries, which means you're going to get a lot more legendaries. But this is still not going to turn all my green circuits and all my red circuits into legendary blue circuits. For that, we need to build. But before I get to the build, I need to ask you a favor, just a little favor. If you're learning something along the way, you're still curious, can you do me a favor? Can you let me borrow a like? I just like to borrow a like. I like to borrow a like to the end of the video. Not happy the video didn't learn anything along the way, by all means, you can have your like back. At the same time, if you're interested in more tutorial videos like this, consider hitting the subscribe button. So let me talk about the setup. The setup is quite simple. We have 6 EM plants, just 6, and they are consuming roughly a fully stacked belt of green circuits, being around about 200 and, well, up to 240, along with 20 odd red circuits, and we're producing about 44 blue circuits per second. As you can see, I do have the legendary productivity modules. I have a couple of beacons. They have a little bit of extra speed in them, but the fact that I'm using rare T3s, and also I'm using uncommon EM plants. None of this is unobtainable. It's all quite easy to get, apart from the productivity modules, but then again, you could always just do another tier of research, and then you need 10% less productivity overall on every single machine. So these guys are producing our blue circuits. The blue circuits we're running down into a system where we're recycling them. We're recycling them with quality modules, and we've made sure we're using legendary ones so we have the maximum upgrade possible. Obviously, if you use lesser quality modules, it just means that less of them are going to get upgraded, but the system will still work. Now, a couple of things I do need to mention is I am feeding in brand new red circuits and brand new green circuits, and that is because, well, 25% of the blue circuits, well, 25% of the green circuits and red circuits that are coming back out are disappearing into a higher quality state. At the same time, we need to talk about how I've made sure that even using stack inserters, they don't get jammed, moving around all sorts of different quality items. And for that, I have this little example here. So in here, I have a constant combinator. Let's turn off the alt mode for a second so we can actually see what we're doing. So I have a stack inserter that is turned to set filters on. I have a box which has all the contents from the recycler, and then I have a constant combinator. The constant combinator is adding a negative signal for all the different values I need, being, well, in this particular example, green circuits, also some epic blue circuits, and then finally some legendary blue circuits again. And in the box, we can see I happen to have some green circuits and also some epic blue circuits. And if we turn alt mode back on, you can see it doesn't have a filter, i.e. it can't select either of these two items. If I was to add a single uncommon green circuit, it's instantly going into his hand, isn't it? There we go. Right click. Okay. If I was to do that, it's going to pop out over here because then he loses the filter straight away. But what I want him to do is output things in a stacked quantity. So in here, I want to have a signal. It's going to be green circuits that are uncommon. I'm going to put in a -15 because he now has a -15 signal, and we'll remove that. It means that as I input these here, all the way up to 6, how many is in there? 11, 12, 13, 14. Yep, he's still fine. He's not going to touch them. 15. And if we look at the circuit network very quickly, we can see I have the -15 we're inputting into the system. Then I have the 15 from the box, and then that equals a total signal value of 0. But if I was to open this and put in one more of these, he can then detect that there's 16 in there, being a positive amount. Because it's a positive amount, he can then output them. Now, this is done with a combinator, setting every different value. Your other option is you can use a arithmetic combinator and just take each value, subtract 15 from them, and then output them again. Which now means if I have a look at this guy, who has all sorts of junk on him, can I remove that and then rebuild it? Cool. I'll have those. No longer belt. Cool. If I take any item, let's go with these and put some of those in there. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. As soon as I put in the 16th one, he now has a signal to output that for just one tick or until the box has none of those items in it, and then he outputs them fully stacked, which means I can make sure that my recyclers are only outputting fully stacked belts, which simplifies the whole system. But as you can see, I'm bringing in my blue circuits and we're just running them down the belt, recycling them as we go, having our little output boxes that has all sorts of stuff in them. And yeah, it's clearing out. It's a little bit backlogged. It's fine. It'll clear out bit by bit as the system keeps running. So as the system keeps running, we're then sorting out our green circuits and our red circuits, making sure that anything that is higher quality than normal is then passed straight through the middle, and then our red circuits and our green circuits then split out separately, run back into the system and fed back in. This is why I do have to have a little bit of red circuits and green circuits added, because don't forget we are losing 25% of our total input because it's continued down the belt because it was a higher quality. I also have this wonderful combinator magic here, which is counting how many items are on the belt when it comes to blue circuits per second. As you can see, it's hovering around about that 44 mark. It does go up and down a little bit because, well, counting belts per second on a belt, counting items per second on a belt with combinator magic, it's not exactly an exact science, not without a longer segment to count along. But this works for right now, and we can see that, yes, I am producing around about that number of blue circuits per second. But if we continue along our build, we can see that in the next segment of the build, I've then pulled out the uncommon of our green circuits and our red circuits, and we're setting them up here. The reason we're setting them up here is I have an exactly identical build, except this is making uncommon blue circuits. If I run max rate calculator over it to just get our numbers, we can see we're still putting in 216, 21, and I'm getting still around about 44 out if I can run the system at full speed, but it's not always running at full speed. On top of that, I've added a little bit of optimization here. So I'm making sure that our red circuits and our green circuits are prioritized to run into the system. If the system overflows for any reason, i.e. it backs up for a second, we make sure that the excess green circuits and red circuits are then available on this planet passive providers. On top of that, our excess green circuits and our excess red circuits come over here and they're loaded in a rocket silo. The rocket silos have a circuit network into them that's saying read orbital requests, and that means this inserter or this inserter will turn on if somebody happens to be requesting uncommon green circuits or uncommon red circuits, and then we can load these rocket silos. At the same time, I'm making sure so the system never backs up, because obviously this is only the uncommon stage. I have more stages I need to look at, more stages I need to keep running. Then I've made sure that any excess just gets dumped in lava. Yeah, okay, so with that done, that's our uncommon area, and then 25% of our uncommons are going to come over here because we're now going to be either rare or better. Again, I filter out the rares, I send the rares off to another row of EM plants, making a whole lot more rare blue circuits, and at the moment all this has cost me as well 25% of my green circuits in, my red circuits in, being, 60? We're going to call it 60 green circuits per second, about 5 red circuits per second, so not a whole lot. And at the moment, I have, filled a couple of rocket silos with blue circuits ready to go, of the uncommon, of the rare, and of course of the epic. And we have the exact same build here at the epic. So again, after we've recycled the blue circuits that were already of the rare quality, anything that comes out either epic or above gets passed through the system. We have another identical build that runs a little bit slower because obviously each time we're going through these systems, they're not all running at full speed. I'm running not quite every machine. You're missing reds. So I'm running about the first 4 machines here. Mostly. I have a little bit of a shortage of red circuits, but all of them have a little bit of a shortage of red circuits. Red circuits are the harder ones to get. But as I was saying, this is then making sure that we have epic blue circuits being produced. Epic blue circuits come down the middle. They get preloaded into rocket silos, so I can make sure that if somebody comes into orbit, a ship requesting epic processing units, they can pick them up from these dedicated rocket silos And then, of course, we have the exact same process where we take any extra epic processing units that we have and we run through a couple of recyclers. Now, as you can see, this one's crafted 3,340 of them. And because I have that 25% upcycle quality, it means that, well, 25% of the 3,000 that's processed have come back out as legendary. So that means I've made, I don't know how many green circuits, an awful lot. Maybe Editor Jetty will put the numbers on the screen. But at the end of the day, it's an awful lot of legendary quality. And everything else is going to be epic quality, which we're then going to process back into the system. And then make sure I can make another blue circuit to process again. And then finally, we have the very last build. So again, everything gets merged, everything gets split out. I pull out the legendaries. Legendaries come up here, and then up here, they get processed into, well, nothing but legendaries. So we have legendary green circuits, legendary red circuits. We then make legendary blue circuits. Legendary blue circuits come down. They have a couple of dedicated rocket silos that are ready to launch these into orbit should any ship request them. And on top of that, I again have the overflow. As you can see, I've overflowed a whole lot of green circuits and an awful lot of red circuits and made sure that they're available in these rocket silos ready to go. At the same time, we have the extra boxes at the very end if anybody on vulcanus, because it's all built on vulcanus, needs extra green circuits and extra red circuits. And we have the overflows, which just take any excess that I can't process and get rid of them. And I could increase my processing rate, of course, by having better quality recyclers, but that's a different story for a different time. Faster recyclers is really what it's down to at this point. But with all that said and done, this is how you take normal quality green circuits, normal quality red circuits, and convert them into legendary. It does going to cost you a little bit of sulfuric acid. If I just have Max Rate Calculator do the calculations for it, it's going to need 250 sulfuric acid per second. But here on vulcanus, 250 acid per second is absolutely nothing. With all that said and done, that is where I'm going to call the video. I am going to remind you, if you are interested in this particular blueprint, I do make my blueprints available to Patreon members. I do like to help those that help me. And with all that said and done, I'm going to call the video here. I'm going to remind you that that I asked whether I can borrow, I'd very, very much appreciate it if I could keep it, especially if you learned something along the way, especially if you found the video interesting, and definitely subscribe if you haven't already, if you want to see more Factorio tutorial videos in the future. But with all that said and done, as always, thank you for watching. Hope you've enjoyed. I'll see you in the very next video with some more legendary tidbits. Bye.